What is up, you guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be covering the murder of Julie Jensen, and this took place in Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin, December 3rd of 1998. The attack type was a murder with antifreeze. The perp was the husband, who you see here on the right, Mark Jensen. On December 3rd of 1998, Mark Jensen, an American man, murdered his wife, Julie Carol Griffin Jensen, in Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin, by poisoning her with antifreeze. The case is notable for the eventual admission into evidence of a letter written by the deceased prior to her death, expressing suspicion of her husband's intentions. Now, I've never personally heard of this case before, so as I'm reading this, I'm learning with you guys. Julie Jensen investigated her husband, checked his planner, photographed a note, and documented her suspicions. She gave the letter to a neighbor with instructions to hand it to the police if anything should happen to her. Imagine having the suspicion that your spouse is going to annihilate you in a horrible way. So much to where you feel the need to take it upon yourself to write a letter expressing suspicion that if she were to turn up dead, it would be her husband. So Julie Jensen investigated her husband. She wrote that she would never commit suicide and that if she died, police should consider her husband a suspect. I pray that I am wrong and nothing happens, but I am suspicious of Mark's suspicious behaviors and fear for my early demise. The weird thing to me is just, this was in 1998, so it's not as common as like, hey, I'm going to go to the police. Not that they could even do anything. Truly. Look at what's happening in the world right now. Look at how many people when women speak up, there's trials held and no convictions. So you can't just go off suspicion, but could you leave the situation? Yes, I know that is easier said than done, and everybody has their own situation and it's unique to their specific situation. So in 2008, Mark Jensen was convicted of first-degree intentional homicide and sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. A verdict which was overturned in 2015. Oh my God. So he murdered her in 1998 and was convicted. And then this was overturned in 2015. After multiple appeals, a second trial convicted Mark Jensen in February of 2023, not too long ago. So the background on this case is Julie Griffin was working at a Sears department store in Oshkosh when she met Mark Jensen in 1981. Kind of funny because it reminds me of how my parents met. My biological dad was, I think he was like a man. I don't know a lot about him because he's an active alcoholic. I'm just going to overshare really quickly. If you're not into that, you can just keep fast forwarding. But she met him at a mall and she worked for the jewelry place. I think it was like Friedman Jewelers or some shit. I don't know. If somebody in my family watches this video, I'm sure they can let everybody know. And they met and got married and had my brother and I within like a very short amount of time. So I don't know. That just made me think about that. So both were students at a local college. Mark graduated, but Julie did not. The couple moved to the Carroll Beach neighborhood of Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin, and had 2 children. David and Douglas, aged 8 and 3 at the time of Julie's death. My God, where are these kids now? We're going to have to look into that. So let me just bookmark that in my head. At the time of her death, Julie worked a part-time job for the Port Authority in Chicago, while Mark Jensen was employed as a branch manager of the Racine, Wisconsin branch of a St. Louis-based financial firm. He definitely gives branch manager vibes. just in the picture. So in this letter, Julie Jensen wrote a letter addressed to 2 law enforcement officers. The full text of the letter is as follows. I took this picture and am writing this on Saturday, 11/21/1998 at 7 a.m. This list was in my husband's business daily planner, not meant for me to see. I don't know what it means, but if anything happens to me, he would be the first suspect. Our relationship has deteriorated to the polite superficial. Our relationship has deteriorated to the polite superficial. I know he's never forgiven me for the brief affair I had with that creep 7 years ago. Mark lives for work. Okay, so she stepped out on the relationship. Damn, Julie. Okay. So I know he's never forgiven me for the brief affair I had with that creep 7 years ago. Mark lives for work and the kids. He's an avid surfer of the internet. Yeah, because you have to think, in 98, I think my husband and I were just talking about this the other night, like when the internet really popped off. 98 would definitely, because I can remember like going on Google for the first time when I was like 9 or 10. And I definitely should have been on Google at 9 or 10. Okay, so he's an avid searcher of the internet. Anyway, I do not smoke or drink. My mother was an alcoholic, so I limit my drinking to 1 or 2 a week. Mark wants me to drink more with him in the evenings. I don't. I would never take my life because of my kids. They are everything to me, ! I regularly take Tylenol and multivitamins, occasionally take over-the-counter stuff for colds, Zantac or Imodium. What girl doesn't have any tummy troubles? Have 1 prescription for migraine tablets, which Mark uses more than I. I pray I'm wrong and nothing happens, but I am suspicious of Mark's suspicious behaviors and fear for my early demise. However, I will not leave David and Douglas, my life's greatest love accomplishment, and wish my 3 Ds, Daddy, Mark, David, and Douglas. Okay, so that's very detailed. So let's get to the trial aspect. Special prosecutor Robert Jambois contended that Mark Jensen poisoned his wife Julie, then 40 years old, with antifreeze and then suffocated her while she was barely breathing in their marital bed in Pleasant Prairie on December 3rd, 1998. The trial was moved from Kenosha County to Walworth County in response to pretrial publicity. Defense counsel Craig Albee argued that Julie Jensen was a depressed woman who killed herself and framed her husband. What? Moreover, the deceased had seen a therapist at least 3 times for depression and was aware of her husband's extramarital affair with a Wait a minute. So they were both cheaters. She cheated 7 years prior. I'm telling you, it's like tit for tat when it comes to that shit. And was aware of her husband's extramarital affair with a co-worker, Kelly Labonte Greeman, whom Mark Jensen later married and who assumed custody of the Jensen's 2 sons after Mark's eventual imprisonment. What? Evidence was introduced showing that Mark Jensen had discussed poisoning his wife with co-workers and a jailhouse associate, as well as searching on the internet for information relating to poison. The prosecution contended also that Jensen remained angry over his wife's brief affair in 1991 with co-worker Perry Teresa. The letters used by the prosecutors was controversial because such evidence had been blocked from court for years by strict hearsay rules based on criminal defendants' rights to confront their accusers under the 6th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. But the Wisconsin Supreme Court, guided by a U.S. Supreme Court ruling, Crawford versus Washington, 2004, held that use of Julie Jensen's letter and statements could be admitted based on the forfeiture by wrongdoing doctrine, under which a defendant waives his right to confront a witness if he caused the witness to be absent. Clock that T. The letter was the critical factor in the trial that ended on February 22nd, 2008. The jury found Jensen, 48, guilty of his wife's murder after more than 30 hours of deliberation. He was sentenced by Kenosha County Circuit Court Judge Bruce Schroeder on February 27, 2008 to life in prison with no chance of parole. Jensen's sons publicly supported him and requested the judge give Jensen a parole date, publicly declaring their love for their father. Appellate proceedings. On December 19, 2013, a federal judge overturned Jensen's conviction and ordered he be released from prison within 90 days. The court agreed with Jensen's argument that the state's use of his dead wife's words violated his constitutional right to confront witnesses testifying against him. The state of Wisconsin appealed the case, but in 2015, the United States Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit upheld the district court's decision on September 8, 2015. Prosecutors decided to retry Jensen for the murder of his wife in January 2016. On September 1st, 2017, Kenosha Circuit County Judge Chad Kirkman reinstated Mark Jensen's conviction. On February 26, 2020, Wisconsin's Court of Appeals District 2 issued a summary deposition reversing Judge Kirkman's decision to reinstate the conviction. The matter was remanded to the circuit court for further proceedings, including trial. Evidence contained in Julie Jensen's letter and voicemail would not be admissible. Jensen stood trial a second time starting January 9th, 2023, this time before Kenosha County Circuit Court Judge Anthony Milaskas. Jensen was found guilty on February 1st, 2023. On April 14th, 2023, he was once again sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Versus Mark D. Jensen, 2002 CF 314 verdict. We, the jury, find the defendant, Mark D. Jensen, guilty of intentional homicide of the first degree as charged in the information. Dated this first day of February 2023, signed by the foreperson. Does the defense wish to have the jury polled?
Yes.
All right. They have numbers, so it'll be easier for me to poll the jury. Folks, I'm just going to ask you if this is your verdict, and I'll start out with number one. Juror number one, is this your verdict?
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
Juror number two, is this your verdict?
Yes, it is.
Juror number three, is this your verdict?
Yes, it is.
Juror number four, is this your verdict?
Yes, it is.
Juror number five, is this your verdict?
Yes, it is.
Juror number six, is this your verdict?
Yes, it is.
I will go to the front. Juror number seven, is this your verdict?
Yes, it is.
Juror number eight, is this your verdict?
Yes, it is.
Juror number nine, is this your verdict?
Yes, it is.
Juror number 10, is this your verdict?
Yes, it is.
Juror number 11, is this your verdict?
Yes, it is.
Juror number 12, is this your verdict?
Yes, it is.
All right, the record should reflect, I polled each individual juror. They all indicated this was their verdict. I'm going to excuse the jury for now. We'll talk a little bit of other housekeeping matters. Before you go, folks, all 16 of you, I don't know what to say. I might come in tomorrow and I might look to the right and I'll see you're not here. You have been wonderful. You showed up on time. We had short lunches. We had a lot of witnesses. We had a lot of exhibits. We had a lot of videos. You were patient with us when we had to do our legal arguments. I really want to thank you on behalf of all the judges in the county for your service, and hopefully it's an experience that you can remember in the future. The other thing I want to mention, you're free to talk to anybody that you want to about this case now, but you don't have to. The only caveat I will say, if you are going to talk to anybody, you might not want to say what other jurors said because they might want their conversation private. And the last thing I will say, it's my understanding on behalf of the media, they're going to have a press conference area if you wish to talk to them. So with that, We have to do some housekeeping matters. Thank you very much. Have a good rest of the day, okay? Thank you, folks. All right, the jury is outside of the courtroom. Is there a motion by the state?
Yes, Your Honor, the state requests the court enter judgment in accordance with the verdict, and further, the state requests the court revoke the defendant's bond and remand him to the custody of the sheriff.
All right, based upon the jury verdict, the defendant is found guilty of first-degree intentional homicide.
Judge, I do have a motion. I would ask the court to consider a judgment notwithstanding the verdict.
I understand your motion, but based upon the evidence that I heard of all the witnesses, the exhibits, I'm going to deny your motion right now. I think the jury has spoken and the court's going to honor it. Okay, for the record then, the court will enter judgment, first-degree intentional homicide for Mark D. Jensen. The record in the should reflect he is found guilty of that crime. I'm going to revoke his bond and set the matter for sentencing. Based upon Marcy's law, I think we have to have a sentencing date, and I'm going to order a pre-sentence investigation. It's my understanding the time that the Department of Probation is requesting on pre-sentences for in-custody people is 60 days.
Your Honor, I would say this. The state would request that the court simply set sentencing for tomorrow afternoon.
I'm not going to do that.
Okay, well, that's the state's request. I don't see the
Not
need
gonna
for
do
a
that.
pre-sentence investigation report.
I've been here for 19 days.
So have I. It's-
We have different responsibilities.
Sure, Judge.
So I'm going to order a pre-sentence, just like I do on any other jury conviction, set the matter for sentence. And if you're unavailable on the date, let me know.
What's the date you're going to set?
The clerk's going to give you the dates. Okay?
April 3rd, 2 p.m.
I am gone that entire week.
Okay. April 14th, 10 o'clock.
Good for the state?
April 14th works for us, Your Honor.
The defense? Okay. Anything else from the state?
What time?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock. Anything else from the state?
No, Your Honor.
Anything else from the defense? All right. Can we have everybody sit while the defendant is taken out?
All right, guys, that is all I have for this one. I will link what I can find in the description box below on this case, and I'll see you in the next one.